Launch. We've started the show, and it is Planet Green Trees. We're about to embark 2 hours of medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Shut that door for the effect of... very good. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Planet Green Trees, episode number 511. Title of tonight's show is And So It Goes. Today's date is 4/15/2021, an important date for some specific reason. Steve, what's what? There you go. All right.
Tax day. Everybody loves.
No, it's been extended.
Extensions by many.
If somebody owes you money, like IRS wise, it's a great day.
That's right.
You probably filed like by January 31st.
Right.
As soon as you got your W-2. But
I hear they've extended it to May 17th
so
this year.
And so it goes. That's right.
Yeah.
It's no noise coming out of these.
There's an IRS actually. Is that on our list here? I thought that was one of the.
I think
There's something we can okay. Anyways, welcome everybody. Planet Green Trees, episode 511. I'm your host, Michael Komorn of Komorn Law. On tonight's episode, we have guest Danielle Tscherne returning from Lady Jane Wellness. She's going to explain her employ as a cannabis coach or cannabis coaching. I'm going to be looking for some tips myself. Allegedly, David Rudoi may be calling in. And we have attorney Shyler Engle.
Shyler.
his
Oh.
house.
Supposed to be
It's Shyler Engle.
Is he on a Zoom? Is he on a Zoom somewhere?
Oh, yeah. What's up, guys?
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, good.
Not a lot of waiting on you. Here you are. Party can start.
Here I am.
Before we introduce the community entertainment, these are the possible topics for tonight. There may be a rant. There's a case recently. There's a Supreme Court. Police shootings constitute a seizure that can be challenged as a Fourth Amendment violation. I'm sure that applies to animals also.
Yeah.
Individualized cannabis treatment plans. What is it and how does it work? South Dakota governor floats a marijuana decriminalization as part of the medical cannabis compromise as South Dakota attempts to create a medical...
They're trying some silly business.
They're trying some silly business.
Let's just say that they're trying some funny business over there in South Dakota, Steve.
What are they doing?
Well,
They're
we're gonna find out.
Yes, that's the state
Michael's
that
just
they,
teasing those
We're just
topics.
teasing it right now.
They're
Teasing them.
slamming down the will of the people there.
You know what? We're gonna talk all about it.
All right.
Also, the federal judge ordered that Detroit must stop processing the recreational marijuana business licenses for now, maybe forever.
Yeah.
Also, I know, as a matter of course, the Court of Appeals heard arguments from the first round of lawsuits that were filed in the city of Detroit when they were denying medical applicants their recreational license after the recreational law passed and the state started receiving
People are
applications.
feeling left out.
All right, very good. Let's go around the room here and introduce who we have right here in the room with us. We have in the bunker
Doing it live.
Doing it live.
Justin and Tommy.
We'll do it live. We'll do
The
it live.
Bunker Boys. That's right.
I had to play for Justin that he didn't know the song "Almost Cut My Hair" by.
It's a great song.
Speaking of which, one of the Bunker Boys that we absolutely love that is rarely on camera.
And never on camera.
It appears as if he cut some locks.
He did.
He had a beautiful mane.
Yeah.
A beautiful mane. And
I understand he had to do it for the man. The man was called,
That's exactly
the
what
frickin'
happened.
man. It's always the man.
which is why I wanted him to
Holding us
listen
down.
to the song
it's
almost
a very
cut my hair.
it's a
not
very
like-
fitting song.
It really is, and
I think,
Justin,
Justin
I'm
is
sure
like
he
a
can-
young
he'll
David
bounce back.
Crosby.
In
He'll
fact,
bounce back.
in fact, at the 30-minute mark, we're going to have him play that song. So try to
Yeah.
learn it, and we'll be going into the bunker.
It should.
So
it
let's
shouldn't
have
be
a
too
moment
bad.
of silence for his locks that are now gone. One. All right, there we go.
Okay. And whatever anyone says, don't believe the story of what is the story of Samson? No hair, no strength. What is it? All right. Next around the room we have Jim Powers, the founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion and owner of Amazon right now. Jim, welcome to the show.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It is good to be here. Looking forward to the show.
All right, good. And glad to have her here with us tonight. YouTube sensation and tester and a critic of cannabis culture and stores. That's fair, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
The one and only Amanda Joslin. Please welcome.
Thank you, Michael. I wanted to just say that I was expecting an Amazon delivery today at 12:30, and I got a picture that it was dropped off at the front, and and guess what?
Wasn't there?
How does that happen?
I'm just teasing. It didn't even happen.
How does
I mean,
that
it
happen?
has happened in the past, but it just
But-
made me think of it when you were like running Amazon. So I figured I'd use this platform to let you know that, hey, my package is missing.
Now what?
Got nothing to do with me.
Listen, with one phone call, Jim can have your prime taken away. That
yeah,
goes
I
for anyone
know. He's
listening.
got power.
Any bad comments about Jim's performance tonight? He's pulling up a call.
Yeah, so
Call you in. You want your prime?
easy with Jimmy.
That's not
Easy
true.
with Jimmy.
It's not true.
And of course, from the tour bus out off the stage, through the back alley and into
I
Planet
love
Green
it.
Tree Spaceship is my dear friend Steve Miller. Steve Miller.
The
Yes, sir.
Joker,
Thank you, sir.
the smoker.
And I feel like lately we're trench buddies. We are back in the trenches. We're fighting these battles against marijuana that the authorities want to keep just clamping down on in whatever way they can. And you and I are in the trenches battling this shit. All of us in this office have just been, it's full out battle right now as far as I'm concerned.
It's funny. Steve goes through a routine like 6 or 7 times a day where he takes a call from somebody who knows that we were involved with we were the attorneys for the Michael Toohey case that forever ended the need to have a lawyer for a probation violation
Right,
if you're a
right.
patient. He had 6 or 7 calls happen. Aren't you the lawyers that, well, it's not working here. I don't know what's going on. And all I hear is like Steve's civil war. Civil war is like, the
It's
things
a
that are
civil
coming
war
out.
within the justice system. So
Yeah,
you
it's-
have a
it's,
civil war that people have had
Look-
enough with the police and the justice system overall.
Yeah.
I think probably a good majority, if you polled the nation,
It's-
I would
no, I'll
guess
tell you-
90% are
It's
fed up with
it's
it.
true. It's like if that's the law and they're not following, what else is left?
There's nothing left.
Right, you don't say
Civil
like.
war.
I mean, I'm not advocating war, but
And
I'm
then
saying
there's-
in principle this issue that we're talking about when a ruling is so unambiguous and there's virtually no way an interpretation could be made other than what we know it to be.
But they figured out a way to fuck the pooch on it. All these
Well-
district judges. It's unreal. It is unreal to me.
I think we need to do a ballot initiative of some kind of, like we were talking about it. They have some financial responsibility for some of the, like get it back on the hook for some financial responsibility. Prosecutors, they lose a case if it's really bad. There must be some kind of threshold or something that you could make them pay the costs for the attorney or something like that. Or
For sure you should.
or,
That's how it is in civil cases.
That's the way it is in Britain.
Otherwise, they have no. There's no reason for them just to
Yeah.
play along.
They
There's
lose,
no-
they pay. That's how that works.
Yeah.
There's no
Right.
accountability, unfortunately. In this.
The only time there's any
Or remove
kind
their
of
immunity.
accountability is like, well, do we have an
Hold
officer
on.
from Minneapolis?
You know what it is? I think it's this.
Oh
When-
man,
Yeah, it's-
I would not want to live there. Right?
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was going to say before we introduce there's a distinction that I guess I'm getting into, which is the qualified immunity of prosecutors, which means they can't get sued no matter how egregious, essentially.
That's insane.
But
No accountability.
despite the fact that there are special responsibilities of a prosecutor different than other lawyers because they're prosecuting a case, and the authority and power that goes along with that to bring charges, to dismiss charges up until the day of trial at their will is a lot of power.
And you know what? They're good at bullying and just abusing that power and threatening and bullying. I mean, what are we talking about here? These are supposed to be the attorney for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, holy what does this come to?
Speaking of which, the
I don't think
attorney
the
for the
people want
people.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the attorney for the people. Let's introduce our good friend Jeff Frazier. He knows all about bullying and stopping it.
He knows how to
With
fight
a
a bully.
very festive. I like that shirt
Where
too.
do you go? Okay, there we go.
I
Yes.
like it. Setting the mood.
Why, thank you. Why, thank you very much. Hello, Michael. Hello, everybody. Yes. Here's something important to know about prosecutors. It's actually worse than Michael lays it out there. They have absolute privilege.
Oh, he just froze up right when he said that.
Well, he's right. Absolute
Absolute.
privilege.
It's absolute.
Absolute privilege.
And
It
that's
is not qualified. Prosecutors.
Yeah.
and you know what else, Michael? I don't think there's too many prosecutors that can go toe to toe with you, if any.
It doesn't matter. They can lie and
Well, they're good at the beginning game because they can lie, cheat, steal, bully, threaten, get the judge to go along with whatever it is they want to do. But to go toe to toe with you in trial, they can't do it.
There's such a disservice of the quality that from the cases that are brought and the way the court looks to the prosecutor to resolve. You know what I mean?
The amount of briefs and the amount of homework that you put into these cases. Do you remember the time the judge told you that he was about to revoke your pen rights? You know, I mean, so sure, you want to take it there? We're taking it to trial. You get ready. Get ready.
You know, at some point in time, us as a society have just given in. You know, they say that, less than 2% of cases go to jury trial. Something like that, which is ridiculous. Which means we have just all kind of settled back and said we give up our right to a jury trial. And we allow the prosecutors and judges to bully us into pleas, even if we didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's just got to stop. It's got to stop.
Yeah, it's madness.
Stop.
You know,
What's
you know how
the
we
solution,
stop it?
Jeff? What's the solution? Shyler, what do you think?
We got to take every case to jury trial.
Let Jeff answer first because I know Shyler have a completely different answer.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. A good point.
Take marijuana off the list of controlled substances, period. State level, federal level, everywhere. Got to be off.
Well,
And I like Shyler's suggestion from a while back where he says we got to get rid of the vehicle code entirely.
That would be good. That would be
Or get rid
good.
of
Because
traffic
you know
cops
what happened
entirely.
is
We got cameras.
that's how we've slowly caved in our rights to have our right to a jury trial in court is because that it starts with the traffic code, and then they tell us that driving is a privilege, not a right. So basically, they can anytime you're in a car, they can just stomp the hell all over your rights.
Correct.
Right, Shyler?
Right, I agree.
It starts with that vehicle code. That
And-
vehicle code is the key to the enforcement of the war on drugs.
Well,
you know,
that's something
I
different.
had a discussion. I have two sons, right? I mean, one of them's 27 or something like that. You lose track of the years, all right? And then the other one just turned 21, all right? So the thing is that, I have to have a conversation with them about just being responsible with their cars. For instance, my youngest, he had two. Oh my goodness, So he's one that I have to pay special attention to because he will be, the type of kid that gets pulled over by the cops and then always have something to say. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's just non-compliant to the core. And, you got to tell the kids that they're all amped up right now.
Yeah.
I've been telling my kids.
And it starts with a
Since
traffic violation.
I've been telling my kids since they were in middle school, do not talk to the police.
Yeah.
Ever. You tell them you want your dad there or an attorney. You are not to give the police any kind of a statement. Do not talk to them. Yes, sir. No, sir. This is my name, sir. Done.
My oldest.
They get that instruction at least on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you have to talk about it like that, too. And I could only imagine that, the numbers now that have gone up. Because, again, like I say, the police are all amped up.
Yep.
And they're really bad, most of them. I hate to say it, but it's the truth.
Well, it goes back to the whole community policing discussion, Steve,
Hold on, so-
which is until we return to that model, this is going to continue.
We're talking about the voiding out of the traffic code. Shyler's going to enlighten us on that a little bit more. But Steve, what we were kind of talking about is even if you get rid of, or marijuana allegedly legal in Michigan, there's not as many raids on the home. So where would these police officers? Where should they put their energies? Where's their danger? Where's their danger?
Patrol.
Well, that is the answer that falls out. Is it true? Maybe. And what do we need if policing? Where would they put those resources? Would it be traffic enforcement?
No.
Speeding? What do you mean patrol? Patrol would be, like is there
answering calls for service?
Or is there dangers on the expressways? What about all those government roads? Like, isn't it when you go on a road?
I'm done being sold on this future safety that they're going to provide.
I'm not saying that. And we talked about this a little bit, because I agree. We're talking about once you have the traffic patrol as the deemed safety, then they're pulling over cars, and that's where then you got no rights, and they're in your car and they smell, and it's over. I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, where's the? Is that a? Listen. I know from the training that they give for the standardized field sobriety testing, which Komorn has been certified in, at those training seminars, they explain how the first day they go into almost like a religious intensity of the carnage that takes place on the roads daily, weekly, annually, and how this can only be stopped if they, the students, police officers, are arresting people and finding and stopping it. They scare you.
Creating the
Right,
environment.
exactly. Now, these are all statistics that are intended to build this, it's almost like it's propaganda in a way.
It's like a Mary Kay Cosmetics meeting, but for drunk driving.
That's right. I was thinking more like Joseph Goebbels film or something like that. But where you're just totally brainwashing this,
right.
mojo.
That's what occurs at most police trainings. Like I went, for instance.
Here we go. Microphone closer. We're going to get some insight into police training. This is like being at the... what is that, Grove? What is the inside the owl that they go to? Go ahead, just never go. Keep on. What is that? You know what I'm talking about?
I forgot what
I
I was
don't
going
know.
to say.
Bohemian
I don't
Grove.
remember.
We're like a Bohemian Grove right now. Tell us what goes on at Bohemian Grove at those secret meetings with the burning owl. Go, Steve, tell us.
Go.
So I went to a class. It was a 3-day course on auto theft.
Okay.
An actual crime with victims. I'm in support of our auto theft units. As long as they don't delve into, they all seem to veer to the war on drugs. Isn't it funny? No matter what unit you're in, you could be in a paperwork fraud unit.
You know why?
And they're going to have you arresting people for marijuana.
You know why? Because guys that run chop shops like to smoke cannabis too. I'm just kidding.
That's probably true. But anyways, you get done with these classes, and like I got done with that one. I was hyped up. I was looking at VINs. I was checking different areas, trying to match stuff up. Never found one. But I was trying. There was one car that looked a little iffy, and I had the guy from the NICB, National Insurance Crime Bureau, come out and look at it because they know where all the secret vins
That's what I was
are.
going to say. I thought you were right, because there's only some.
No, you can't. I wasn't at a level to get those
Right.
secret vins.
Right.
You have to be like an auto theft detective to get that access. And they hold you to it, and those guys will never tell you. But anyways, the point of it all is like I was really motivated coming out of that class to do some auto theft. Or like you go to a drunk driving one, same thing. Oh, I'm going to get out there and get me a drunk tonight, you know, or we go to a narcotics class. Oh, I'm going to go get some dope tonight. You know, so whatever they do is probably similar at every one of these damn classes that gets us all keyed up to go out and arrest people. I don't know if I mean, do the people...
They're like, okay, there's a bunch of you guys going to be leaving here. We want you each to have a hammer and go find, you know, what it is we just taught you about. And they wouldn't be giving you these hammers and giving you this information if they didn't have like a program that they thought it was going to, there'd be a lot of it, right? They're not sending you out there after giving you weeks of training, taking, you know, whatever, and if you're not going to be producing, if there's not going to be some action to go,
Right.
you know, some nails
Yes.
to go hammer on, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, so there's got to be a, you know, like you got all these drivers, right? That's a good way to start, you know.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit of that stuff, and they're like, oh, every one of these cars can be,
Yeah,
you know.
that's
you know what I'm saying?
perfect.
Perfect. All right, Shyler, let's talk about the right to travel, the implied consent that when the police pull you over, you are required to pull over, provide a valid driver's license and insurance and registration to the vehicle. I get the feeling you're not a fan of that. Is that right?
I mean, am I going to become like the token sovereign citizen now? Is
You know,
that
listen,
my role in the
let's
show?
this is a philosophical
I don't think
show.
it wouldn't be a token
we're
sovereign
having-
No, I'm
citizen.
with you, Shyler.
We're having
Whatever your
philos-
viewpoint is, I'm usually with you.
You don't even listen. We're just playing with this is academic. You don't even have to subscribe to it. I'm just curious what other perspective.
Well,
I know. I like the
try to-
criticism of the government. Go on. We're all
Can we try
criticizing the
to
government.
base it in like a real discussion? Like,
You can't criticize the
Reasonable.
commentator. You can do
Is
whatever else you want. Don't criticize the commentator and the framing of the. Go ahead. I'm kidding.
well, I don't pretend to know the perfect answer. I haven't studied this in a while, but the Privileges and Immunities Clause of the 14th Amendment, which establishes the right to travel between the states, is where perhaps people find, the constitutional right to travel. And it's always been ruled that doesn't extend to your right to travel within the state. And so if you don't have a right to travel within a state, then what does it really mean to have the right to travel between the states? Anyway, but this most interestingly probably is going to come up, maybe, probably not, if they're actually the federal government or between the states were to actually impose some sort of whatever the COVID travel tests, the restrictions on travel unless you present your freedom certificate.
Right. Your multi-pass.
Imagine that. There was a plan behind this
Passport. Passport.
I'm just saying, if you were to take an argument against whether or not the collection of states or the federal government can impose a restriction on your travel, it would be like the first time that this would actually come up with how the courts interpreted the Privileges and Immunities Clause of the 14th Amendment, 100 years ago. So when you say right to travel, that's kind of what that means. And we're currently actually experiencing that. But when it comes to the police power to control you, and determine your competency to drive and whatnot through the issuance of driver's licenses, I just want to see the cracked tail light, the
License
didn't
plate
register
light
your tabs, that kind of. These are almost like financial.
Arrestable offenses.
They're you can pull over the car, and they're really like financial taxes on the poor. It's like, you were poor and you didn't get your light fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to go to jail.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
Kiss your freedom and your future goodbye because it's a
right.
vicious cycle, as
Buckle
we
up,
know.
Buttercup.
Once you're
I
stuck.
really want to see the cracked windshield and all that stuff go away, because I'm sorry, having a tail light that's out or a light on your plate, your license plate, that actually is a case in Michigan for the light bulb and the license
We
plate.
did it all the time,
Yeah,
Shyler.
that's
I
a
wish
that's a
my
popular
son would
one.
listen to the
That's
show.
the biggest BS.
Well,
How about this?
They can't.
How about
hey,
this?
hey! I mean, Shyler. Let's be fair. Then they can't see your license plate. It's not like they have a big spotlight on their car or anything.
How about this?
It's not like the license plates reflect.
How about like defective equipment or the lights burnt out? You know, but here's the thing: when they wrote the ordinances for this in Michigan, their cars were, you know, like there was think of like 2 taillights, right? They were talking like the white and the red.
Oh, yeah.
Cars today have like 9 or 10 on each side, so there's never a time when burnt out taillight is what I think it is, right? That's
Yep.
But it's still defective equipment.
That's
I
right.
get it,
You're getting
I
pulled
get it.
over.
No. The rule is something about like a.
But
like,
you could still totally see because it's got
well, that's
so
what
many.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's the taillight burnt out has to be such that it's not illuminating the white light for a certain distance. But you've got 9 others if that one's burnt out. All cars come with multiple, and not ever you're going to find.
Yeah, but there's like a catch-all in the whole defective equipment. There's like a catch-all.
See?
There's something
defective
better.
He can
equipment.
find-
The
they can
best is
find
this.
it.
This is the best. That even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
they were
an
acting.
honest
They were
mistake.
acting in good faith.
No. It's not even that. Police officers are allowed to make mistakes of law.
They're
Oops.
so
Oops, I
Sorry,
thought
you
that I
guys.
could pull him over
They baby
because
the
his
police
taillight was out.
officers.
I could see it. I could smell it. There was no problem with seeing it. I just saw it was burnt out. It says burnt out taillight.
Honest mistake.
There was I could see him stopping and
Makes
whatever.
sense, yeah.
Oh, I can't do that? Well, you should
That's
have
a
told me
general-
that before I smelled all that marijuana.
That's a generalized defective equipment.
Yeah,
It's a good stop. And
good stop.
War on drugs.
That's right. And
What's the point?
the point is to get into the car, Shyler.
That's
Point
it.
is money.
But they spend more money on having the police officers do that kind of stuff.
They do.
And then to have the courts to actually, send out the notices. I mean, it's like
ridiculous.
a works
Hold on.
program.
Hold on.
And
Hold on.
It's just really,
Hold on. You don't understand. That is the financial business plan strategy. You're like,
No,
I don't
it's like-
understand. No, that is what it is. They create the law. They send out the traffic enforcement. They make the stop. They find the marijuana. They bring them to court. The
Right.
local court gets them in front of them, and they say, we need your money. Go
I
to the
understand.
counter, and then they pay the bill to the bank for the building they just built to do this. And they're looking for ways to get more customers.
Did you see the buildings that they just built in West Michigan? Kalamazoo just got like some, $11 million, it's more, $90 million Justice Center.
Yeah.
Grand Rapids just got a new Justice Center. And now I'll
Jail's
be the
big
right-wing
business.
wacko. Like, this is just like a works program.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of digging ditches and planting trees, we're
What do you got against trees,
creating
Shyler?
we're creating an economy of a police state on people.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But we get trees.
Shyler, did I
You
just
don't
hear
get
that?
trees. Go
Did I just
kill-
hear
go-
you say
They
that you
kill
want all the
trees.
trees cut down? Is that what I just
No.
heard?
no, I'm saying.
I'm teasing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Think about if the structure, like you need.
I was getting
This
y'all
economy
worked up.
This economy is a police state economy, and it's completely like dead. And what I think is happening now is we've got thousands of people, tens of thousands of people who are now in the business of counting the crystals on your cannabis bud and to see if they're compliant or not. Like, what? This is because they've lost the criminality. Now we got to create an economy of counting marijuana leaves.
Well,
Like, this is nuts.
Shyler, I have a question for you. What do you
We have our
think
guest.
about?
Let's not forget our guest. She's been
Yeah.
very
I know.
patient.
Yeah.
Gotta-
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm done.
No, you're not done. I want to come back to you. And
yeah.
we're going to come
Yes,
back,
let's go
Shyler.
back. Let's
We're
go to the
coming back.
guest because I have an
Teasing it.
important.
the Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
I was upper middle class, I had a yard of carpet grass. Worked backhoe 9 to 5 and paid my union dues. But the chef came one day and he took it all away. Left me without anything to lose. They forfeited my car, they found some sugar in a jar. Told me it was probably suspicion of a crime. The other day I saw it being driven by the law, and them boys in back was gonna do some time. Well, forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play, without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the Deep East Texas Task Force blues. Took my minibar and then they seized my VCR. Well, it could be misused to watch a nasty video. They took away my kitchen all the time. My wife was bitching that it wasn't nothing but oregano. They said my herbal tea might cause a sinful ecstasy. Told me it could only lead to doing something hard. Took my ass to jail, they took my wife, paid my bail, took my double wide down to the county yard. Forfeiture today, Lord, what a funny way to pay. Keep the peace so all our kids can go outside and play, without a cotton picking thing to lose. I got the Oakland County Task Force blues. Without a cotton picking thing loose, I got them Oakland County Task Force blues.
Yeah! Nice.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our...
And now back to more Planet Green Trees.
We're back in business.
We're back. We're back. Planet Green Trees, episode number 511, and we're now turning to the Lady Jane Wellness' one and only Danielle, who is going to offer some cannabis coaching. Okay, first of all, what is a cannabis coach, and why do I need one? Please, Danielle. Thanks for being here tonight, by the way.
Hi, thanks for having me. This has been fun. It's been a very interesting conversation to listen to. But yeah, cannabis coach, basically what I do is kind of pick up where the doctors leave off after they get their certification. I coach patients on finding the products that work well for what they're looking to accomplish. So certain symptoms that they're looking to manage or certain goals they're looking to achieve with their cannabis use, I can kind of guide them in the direction of what types of products to look at.
Very good. And is this specific coaching, would it be, is it limited in who it's offered to in terms of the more novice or new to the medical cannabis ingesting, or would this also apply to the, regular or daily cannabis user?
Who's your audience?
Actually, I would kind of say both. I think that most of my coaching and like my course that I just finished building is geared more towards somebody that's new to cannabis, somebody that's been interested in exploring it for a while, but kind of got lost on the internet looking for resources. It's kind of more teaching the basics. So like, what is a vaporizer? What's a bong? What's the difference between flower and concentrates? Just kind of teaching them the basics. But I think my, I've created a whole system on how to work patients through like planning their trips to the dispensary, setting their goals and their intentions. And I think that could kind of go either direction for a newbie coming into it or somebody who's been using regularly for years, but maybe wants to know better targeting methods if they're looking to accomplish certain things or if they're looking to achieve a certain type of high. Knowing how to find that type of product isn't always the easiest, and it's hit or miss if you're going to get a bud tender that's going to give you that type of information and that type of guidance. So I kind of pick up where the system that's in place right now doesn't necessarily reach. I think patient education is a shortcoming in many industries right now, but
so I think we have a couple of samples of what you were talking about with trying to help, like with a treatment plan as an example, or like if somebody's new to cannabis, well, I don't know anything about cannabis. I don't know how much cannabis is what. I don't know how much I need. I don't know when to use it, how much to use. We've seen a lot of articles come out recently, and I think everybody probably has. I don't have one to quote at the moment, but you can fact check Anyways, there's a significant number of folks that are enrolling into a medical marijuana program that are over 65. So what you're having is a generation of people that are entering into this market that have no idea what they're doing. And quite frankly, they've been used to being able to go to the doctor's office, sit down with the doctor, and the doctor saying, hey, this is what you're going to have, and this is when you're going to have it, and this is for how long you're going to have it.
And how many times a day?
Exactly. So that's absent, completely absent,
Yeah,
always
and
has been from
I was gonna
cannabis.
say, I think especially, Amanda, you can kind of attest to this as well, working with medical, like marijuana doctors right now. It's very hard to find ones that are going to give that type or that level of attention to their patients coming in. So it really falls back a lot on their staff, who honestly, most people in my position are just scheduling appointments. They are not going through the education piece of it. And I think the cannabis advising and the cannabis coaching that's starting to roll out places is where it's kind of bridging that gap between not getting the information in the dispensary. I can speak only here in Ohio. When I was working in the dispensary, there were certain things that we were not allowed to educate patients on. There were certain restrictions in language and things that we couldn't say. And it's unfortunate because then we're kind of blindly guiding these patients and sending them on their way, expecting them to then do their own research and figure it out.
Sure.
And so I think that meeting that middle piece and bridging the gap is where it's going to change
Sure.
the game.
Let's take a look at...
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. If you have a question.
I did. I was going to ask a couple of things. First of all, I think you're right on the statistics. I think it shows like the cannabis use is up like 300% for people over 65 and over, and like all others, maybe even 50 and over, but like the other statistics have remained the same. That's what legalization has done. I mean, that's like an important fact that's been out there in terms of, the sky isn't falling, kids aren't eating their dogs and stuff like that. It hasn't been, the tragedy that.
Right.
But I wanted to say, the discussion here over the physician's ability to get into the nitty-gritty and actually tell patients how much and what to use and what strains to use is a phenomena that, doctors complain about in Michigan as well. They'd like to know more. I know a lot of them would like to do studies, do some, actual research on this. It's difficult for them to actually make a lot of the correlations of what's working, what isn't working. Because most significantly is from a legal perspective, physicians are not allowed to prescribe it. And I don't know. Right. I don't think the word that is prescribed.
They use
I'm
recommend.
Sure. And what they're doing is they're recommending its use to treat a serious. They're not writing a script for it. So saying the idea of this recommendation. From the legal perspective, because there's a case where I had a point about this. What had happened, the DEA tried to shut down these doctors in California. They were writing these recommendations. And ultimately, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said, and it was, Supreme Court did not take the case, said this opinion is good enough, is that we want to live in a culture, society, we want a policy that allows a physician to have First Amendment right to speak freely in the privacy of the doctor's office and even make recommendations for treatments that might be illegal in the patient's best interest, But certainly the doctor couldn't take them to the place to get it.
Right.
Couldn't really do much other than, I saw it as kind of like, there's a place in, another part of the state or someplace like you go down to Mexico and they'll, go to this. That may even be too much, but the idea of, recommended something different. And I'm sure this comes, back and forth. And I'm always worried sometimes when doctors are too, I don't think it's the thing that the DEA is looking for right now, but there's always that challenge of getting too nitty-gritty, which then brings us to the coaching situation here. Danielle, is it even possible, I mean, the idea of like introducing the novices to the variations of the types of ingestion, what a dose even is for various, formats and stuff like that, obviously is critical to someone that knows nothing about that. Is that, do you think that's like one of the bigger services that the coaching does, just the being around it and understanding like how things work and where, what's supposed to happen?
I think so. I poured a lot of what I've built into. Oh,
I hear
you me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to I had to figure all this out on my own. Like there were articles here and there. This was like 6-7 years ago. So it was still, especially around here, like there was not a whole lot of resources, because even at like the Shed or any of like the shops around here, they can't talk about it in that way either. They can't give that type of instruction. And my experience in the dispensary, these older people and even younger people, I found a lot of like young women like around my age coming in, and they didn't have somebody to talk to about this either. And there was almost this level of shame around talking. Like it was very hard for a lot of these people to ask these questions because they felt dumb. They didn't think that they thought that they should just understand how to use it, and that, I don't know, I guess they felt the level of judgment. I don't know. But I think there's a type of comfort coming into, like, I'm a medical patient myself, and I get this a lot when I talk to patients just looking to book their appointment with the doctor. It's nice to talk to somebody and learn from somebody who understands what you've gone through and who understands what you're looking to accomplish, especially for medical patients. It can work for people that are not necessarily, I think anybody, and even rec users are medical patients
No, I agree. That's
in my mind, I guess.
No, I
But it's more about for them to be able to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish, but getting the benefits without falling into, like, I could very easily let my medicine just keep me locked on the couch and not do anything. But it's about setting the intention and knowing how you're using it to still be able to accomplish your goals, but
Sure.
get the medicine that you're getting.
For sure. One of the challenges for what we're talking about here has always been the phenomena that everyone's endocannabinoid system is different than the next.
Yes.
And to one, what may provide the perfect, leveling of your endocannabinoid system in general, so that you have, you're just,
balance.
You're a
Yeah, you're
machine.
balanced, exactly. You're just completely imbalanced. Right. So that may not work for everyone, because everyone's, systems are different. There's thousands of things that could influence something in one day that wouldn't the next day. Like, there's like drinking different fruits and foods that may even, so I'm saying there's so many different things. Isn't the challenge for what you're talking about beyond the introduction of the methods of use very difficult? I mean, that's a fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, one of the documents that I sent you is a journal or a tracker sheet. So I teach people like if you're trying a new product and you're trying to figure out what it does for you, it's keeping track throughout that high and seeing how you can utilize based on how you're feeling at that time and what you're looking to accomplish. How can I get there? Which of my products do I have on hand or can I get that is going to help me be able to do that?
Okay.
So
And
I
we're
teach
going to
people.
pull that up.
So you put up the intention first, and then choose from your cannabis and rely on the diary or journal of how it influences you, because you've been keeping records of how you were reacting to it. Right.
Because each one of us is going to respond to that product differently. So the bud tender at the store could have had great intentions of like, these technically have the properties of what could help you. However, we can't guarantee you that that's how it's going to be effective, or that's how it's going to affect you.
But if they know that put me to sleep and I really wanted to be awake, and I'll put that on the go to sleep thing, and when it's time for me to go to sleep, I use that one, right? Something like that.
And I always instruct patients that always do a small dose before you need to do anything else, just so that you know how you're going to react, so that you're not medicating for the wrong thing.
Right. Titrating is what they call it, right?
Yeah.
The small doses take a little bit.
Or microdosing.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, there's those DNA tests now out. I haven't tried one yet, but there's supposed DNA kits that allow you to, I guess, find out your endocannabinoid system and find the perfect numbers.
So
Wait a second.
add to that,
Okay, go ahead.
in a week or so, perhaps next week, but we will confirm, we'll let everybody know via Facebook, Planet Green Trees TV, Facebook. Like it. Love it. Want some more of it. Anyways, back to the main topic, CannaGX. It's, I believe the main company is called Melix, M-E-L-I-X. And so one of the guests that we have planned, upcoming guests that we have planned, are the owner and the director of sales, in addition to the physician that developed this product. And they're going to, as Danielle, it falls into the same category. Okay, we have this individualized cannabis treatment plan, but where's the science behind it, and is there science behind it? As we know, and as we've talked about on PGT before, there's a pretty high error rate for spit tests.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to find out what's going on with the CannaGX. We don't know. But it's a specific kit. It's a kit you can purchase, and it's approximately $250 retail value, and you get it mailed to your home.
Medical?
And it's sealed with a couple of swabs that you swab into your cheek.
Okay, then
send it in.
Yep.
And then they send you a report similar to Ancestry.com.
Right.
And they send you a report and tell you what cannabinoids and terpenes based upon your genetic profile that is going to be best for you.
That's what you were talking about there.
Another challenge that's going to come from that, the next level of that is, how is the dispensary going to demonstrate those terpenes and cannabinoids without changing their testing criteria? Because I don't know that any of them currently, although they have to be tested, I don't know what exactly is on the test results, and if they would have to, do some different things, and perhaps it would raise the cost and all this other stuff. So
we're talking about a bunch of different things, but yes, okay.
Yeah.
So this testing is kind of what you were talking about. Sounds like
the CannaGX, yes,
Danielle. So the DNA is what you're calling it, the testing, and it's supposed to give you some feedback on your own individualized endocannabinoid system, some level number, so you can know how to treat it. Maybe I don't know, but
it's supposed to be giving you like a kind of a profile build out of what terpenes and cannabinoids will be beneficial for you.
Right, because
I'm interested.
So if I'm an old person, if I'm a person that is new to cannabis, let's say, of any age.
Okay.
And I decide that I would like to start this in my treatment plan, but guess what? I am a school teacher, and I do not want to be blown out in front of my students.
Right.
But I want some pain relief. So how in the world am I, not knowing anything about cannabis, supposed to figure out how to use it most effectively? Because as we know, we cannot deduct it from insurance. It's out-of-pocket expenses.
Right. You don't want to spend money wastefully.
You're wasting money and you're wasting product. And then you're feeling like you don't maybe even want to try it again if you overdo it.
Yeah,
think about
you get
that.
Discouraged. It's a lot of discouragement. It's trial and error. It's going to get frustrating, but without any direction. And especially at the cost of all these products, it's hard. A lot of these patients get very frustrated. I do see benefit in them giving some type of report as far as terpenes and cannabinoids that may be beneficial. But again, Amanda, you're right. I have had the privilege or whatever of seeing a test result for products. There's several reports from tested products in Ohio, and they do, at least here, run quite a bit. Like, they do pretty extensive profiling. It's just dependent on, patients don't have access to that. It's all dependent on what information they've printed on their product labels.
Reliant also. On the bud
THC
tender.
and CBD. Yes.
The bud tenders, then we look at the knowledge of the bud tenders.
Right.
So what has happened as commercialization has moved forward is what you have people that, and I don't want to make a gross generalization, but guess what? I'm doing it. There's a lack of knowledge. So if I go into a dispensary and I am a true medical marijuana patient and I have a true condition and I ask the person behind the counter, I'm going to be very lucky if they're going to be able to guide me to something that might help a bit. Okay? Yeah. It's up to me as a patient out of my own pocket. And, again, this is something they're new at. And, how many times do they want to try to, do this and knock their head against the wall?
Have you guys noticed, being in Michigan and having rec sales up there now, do you notice almost like a downfall?
Absolutely.
In
100%.
education?
I was going to say, just the market is falling apart. At one point, it was 50-50 when the rec law came out. It had gotten that point, and it is slowly, rec is 55-45. It's probably 70-30 right now. The patient, you got to understand that our medical, the state licensing that created this structure where, there'd be retail stores that were state authorized, because there was a lot of them that were locally authorized but still subject to state raids and whatnot. When they did that, they already had this other program in place. They had, 50,000 caregivers that were supplying the 300,000 patients that were in the state of Michigan. So they when they created this new system, they did so with the idea that they were going to try to get rid of the old system, the old supply, and drive patients into this. What's turned out is that there's financial, there's no taxes. They eliminated the sales tax for the cannabis, which used to be taxed, and but there's just seemingly a shrinking market, and I think what's driving that, unfortunately, is that it's difficult for facilities to operate just medical right now.
Of course.
There's only 250,000 probably right now, as opposed to 8 million in the state of Michigan that they could compete for. You see what I'm saying?
And it's the natural evolution of the industry, and that may be offensive to some, but
it's going to be very offensive to a lot.
Nothing prevents.
We're not making friends right now.
I trust me, I know.
Nothing prevents a patient from going in there, or a caregiver from going in there and buying with their caregiver cards as much marijuana as they need, or they're allowed to possess, to take back to their patients. That can still take place. There's nothing that limits a card holder, unless they're not. They can do that. Can they?
Over 21, no felony convictions for 10 years on drugs or any violent convictions forever.
The caregivers can only buy out of the medical.
Right.
But they could still. Nothing stops them from buying recreational.
They buy recreational too.
Of course,
they
can, but not as a caregiver. Not as a caregiver, right? So they couldn't buy for their. That's one of the issues. And
okay, so if you only got a caregiver card, then you couldn't buy
medical.
Well, you have access to different stuff.
I guess you
can, unless you're over 21.
So as an example, let's say that I'm a caregiver for somebody that has MS, and I need RSO.
Yeah.
And you're only 20 years old.
And I don't have a caregiver card.
No,
I have
20
to.
Years old
let's say I don't have a caregiver card, and I have to purchase rec. Okay,
yeah,
it might not be available for rec patients.
And it'd be extremely expensive too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's at least 13% more expensive.
Right. All right. So, listen. I want to ask a couple questions to Danielle again. We've been talking about terpenes and
cannabinoids.
Like the other cannabinoids that are being CBD and
CBN.
Because there was a time. Yeah. There was a time, and I know one of the other panelists on our show
Delta 8
gets crazy when we start talking about this. But there was a time when people used to talk about sativa and indica as like a way to describe the cannabis plant. Is that still going on? That's not a thing, is it?
It is, unfortunately. So I was recently in Colorado with a friend, and she got super upset because the hybrid that she had a hybrid when she was out there last time, and then she got a hybrid this time, and it didn't hit her the same. And then got angry with me when I tried to explain why that's not a thing. Like,
yeah.
Right, like an indica sativa. Like the
It's not a
sativa
thing.
keeps you up at night.
That's not a
or whatever.
thing.
It's not a thing. It was a way to describe things, and it's been,
it's more
unfortunately,
in its
of an interpretation
infancy.
of the plant
shape,
than anything.
Shape, right, exactly.
But it's not like everything on the market, for the most part, with the exception of the few land races that are out there, everything is a hybrid.
Right, exactly.
That's what they call it, but it
Exactly.
doesn't
I've
matter.
been saying that forever.
But it doesn't matter.
yes.
No, but that's a different thing.
All about the makeup.
Well, hold on. Right. So there's 17 different things to unfold in there. A hybrid could be it's a part sativa, part indica, which is not really. That's not even a thing. It could be like it's a hybrid between a Jack Herrera and a
I like to say
lemon haze or something like that.
Hybrid. It could have like because I don't know if they do this up there, but they mark them like 70-30 or 60-40.
Oh,
or 50-50. So
I see.
like
THC
it has
okay.
so much, or no, as in sativa indica. Like they mark hybrids as like a ratio because it's like how much sativa properties does it carry? How much
That's not a
indica
measure.
properties?
But that's not a real
It's
thing.
ridiculous,
It
but
offers
that's all
nothing.
they had at the time.
Who?
But it's all people had
No,
at
I
the
know
time.
that, but I'm saying she's saying they may still do that. I mean, okay, so I was asking you. I mean, I'm just asking for your coaching. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not. You don't.
I'm not speaking for everybody.
No, no, but you're in the dispensaries may still even describe it that way, and bud tenders may still even describe it that way, and that nonsensical folklore that doesn't make any sense may still be. But that's not a thing that you're teaching. Like it's not like there's a impact on the outcome on whether it's indica, whether it's, but even without even being able to say it's an indica, if there's such a thing in a sativa, you know what I mean? There's
Like
too much.
Danielle has put a training program together, a bunch of slides, and
I know.
In this, it's like a whole training thing that you could sign up to take. And what it has in there is it has like the terpenes to look for these patients and stuff like that.
I was just asking her about making some points here that, I think, look, they're newer to the program. She's on the cutting edge of teaching. I'm just curious if the evolution of a lot of it is permeated across the state line. Toledo and Michigan was in a war once, Let's be honest. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Yeah, that's true. Those
I'm just
Buckeyes.
kidding.
We're technically part of Michigan.
That's right.
I forgot
I'm going
about
down there
that,
this week. I'm going there
Danielle.
tomorrow, actually. Okay. I'm going to take off my Michigan
There's
place.
no other place to be during that football weekend, though.
That's
no
right.
other place to be.
There you go. Well, I was going to say, so here's the other thing, like, it still is a thing, and it certainly drives the market for reasons that some may say are ridiculous, but the THC content, the stuff that sells from the growers to the processors.
It's the high THCs.
Is a high THC. First of all, there's a pattern, and it's not a secret that state after state after state, there's always like a scandal with the testing inflating the THC, and it's almost impossible to reconcile the increase in THC that's been being reported in the Michigan's testing. But that's not what makes for a good reaction or a good medical. What is that? I mean, obviously it's some kind of combination, but.
So I think that's part of what I try to stress with the importance of journaling everything, because it's all about finding your sweet spot. Like, I honestly, in my personal experience, I don't find much difference after a 22% level of THC. After that, all it does is knock me out. Like, I don't get anything crazy out of a 35% flower versus a 27%. Like, that doesn't make much of a difference for me. For me, it was all about finding that sweet spot of knowing what level I'm good to function and what level is just going to knock me out for the night. It's finding, and that's different at each time. What I can take during the day is not going to be what I can take at night.
Mm-hmm.
So
obviously the issue of titrating and getting used to whatever the method of ingestion or dosing is, do you obviously people probably want to know and are curious about driving. You know, how soon after? And I'm curious what.
That was a huge question in the dispensary, and I kind of worked it into my modules as well. But I honestly, that's a huge part of why I said, or I tell people, just try everything at home when you're sitting at home. You're in for the night, you're not going anywhere, so that you know the duration in which there's a time period after I inhale anything that I'm not comfortable getting behind the wheel. I'm not saying if put in a situation I couldn't do it, but I'm to a point where I wouldn't necessarily choose to get behind a wheel. But an hour or so later, I'm fine.
Right.
I'm fine. But would it still show up on a test? Absolutely.
Right.
But am I to a point that I trust myself enough to get behind a wheel of a motor vehicle? Sure. That's no different than what I should be expected to know if I take a Percocet that was prescribed to me.
Yeah.
True, although the Percocet, after you take it, will get more and more
progressively impair you.
Whereas
is that right?
Yeah, the cannabis, there's a spike.
Oh yeah, I suppose
when you
so.
ingest it. The second you take your lips off of the joint, it's
almost
straight down. And it stays at just a level that it's like more of a medicinal. Medicinal
it's all
therapy.
It's all about knowing where that peaks, and I even have that's part of the tracking process. Is there's a timeline on that journal sheet that you track when you peak, so you know how far after when you consume it you're able to go about your day.
This is the battle over the roads. It's interesting because we were talking about the traffic code and driving and freedoms. And ability to not be harassed while you're driving, but as you know, what would happen in Michigan was if during a traffic stop the police found out that you were a medical marijuana patient, you're going to be investigated. And, there's going to be some search.
They have the ability to do that.
Well, the card said the law says that the card cannot be used as probable cause to search, but
but the police would be able to know if a patient didn't necessarily come forth with that information.
They cannot. No, it's a private registry. Okay. That was an issue also because if they suspected that a patient was growing or a caregiver was growing, they couldn't say, 274 Smith Street, is that a caregiver? It's not information that would be available to them, right? So it's like, right, HIPAA. If they did know that they were patients or caregivers, then they would have to include it in the search warrant. But that was always a problem. You know what I mean? Like, how could that be? And they said, well, it's stupid, but not everyone's a caregiver and whatever. It's all right. But here we have the situation where, first of all, a police officer is trained to say, it smells like marijuana in here at every traffic stop. You know what I mean? And see if they get a reaction. It could either be, I don't know what you're talking about, or it doesn't smell like it to me, or, well, I'm a patient, and here's my card. That's what I'm saying. That kind of stuff would happen.
That's exactly why the notion that the card isn't probable cause is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because what would happen, Steve?
Well, this is what happens.
I smell marijuana.
This is what happens. So if you're suspicious of probable cause of a crime at this time, and you smell marijuana, and you're about to search my car because you have some suspicion and now you got probable cause, here's a card. This card ends whatever suspicion of criminal activity. The driver's allowed to smell like marijuana. Now, if it's, think you're smoking, get you out of the car, run you through some tests, or the smell of, freshly cut marijuana. These are like the conversations you have with a police officer when you're cross-examining them in a traffic stop. And, it becomes ridiculous. But it is it is and has always been a way to tie up a vehicle, to turn it over, to search the car, to call the dogs, and very limited types of limitations. I'm curious to see what, I don't know if you get any reactions from Ohio. I mean, I have very specific advice that I give to patients, caregivers, adults, recreationally about, about what to do if you're pulled over and asked to, do some circus acts outside of the vehicle. My answer is don't talk, don't walk, meaning don't take their and don't spit, don't do their saliva test.
And that's why I always call it a spit test, because he says
it's the saliva, But
don't fall for it. It's not a lollipop.
Is that a concern of Or do patients have that concern? And you nailed it on the head. They're not impaired, but it may come up in their blood system, and that may be, viewed, even though it's not. Michigan laws doesn't allow for this, but there's all this,
There's a movie
fear.
where the field sobriety tests are well demonstrated, and it's Steve Martin and the Jerk.
I remember you saying that, and I keep forgetting. I need to watch that one too.
All right, so what's going on? Do you think the driving of patients is an issue now? Do you think there's concerns? Are the police going running roughshod on everybody?
Honestly, no. I think the Toledo police have still been very tied up in the opioid epidemic. I don't think that's. I mean, I've driven in Michigan where they have the side on the highway saying impaired drivers, and they give a number, and that's on billboards here. It scrolls through those digital billboards. So I haven't heard of any influx of that being an issue or a concern. There certainly have been patients that have brought up the question of how they should respond or if there's any level of protection. And I like to say that it does, but honestly, it's not a clear. I can't give you a clear answer on that. I don't.
So if somebody, what would be the intoxication if under the if I got a is there some type of level of intoxication that they're looking for with cannabis in Ohio? Like, is there any roadside? Yeah, like for instance, for alcohol or something.
I don't think that they have I don't think any of the police are equipped with anything to test.
So they're not testing for that at all. They're just testing just regular alcohol.
To my knowledge, don't quote me on that. I'm not positive, but to my knowledge, they're not equipped with that. I believe it's just kind of they would do some type of impairment test.
I want to go back to this other thing, and if you've got to go, let us know. I don't want to keep you, but this is
we got to take a break.
All right, let me pose this here real quick. The machine, the DNA testing, the other one.
CannaGX.
They're going to give you a recommendation, which your Geno, is for cannabis, and where's that from?
Okay.
What's the standard by which they can draw that from? Okay. How do you know? Where is the data that says that and works well with that? Are we talking about, cellular level plant? Like when I used to be a plant, I like that kind of. I grew well with that one. Is that what we're talking about?
There's very minimal information on the website. I'm going to just say that right now. What Danielle and I are going to do is we have ordered samples, and we are going to, because we're experienced cannabis users, we're going to test it. And in addition to that, as we talked about a little while ago, but to let everybody know again, we're going to have these CannaGX guys, which is the company is called Melix GX.
Okay, we'll ask them about it.
Melix GX. And they're going to have a physician.
In their explanation, I want to know how they know this.
They're going to regret this. I'm actually like,
it's not going to go well. It's going to be like when Tree was on.
I do want to know. I mean,
get to the bottom of the
because
science.
we need to know what science is behind it.
Grill them.
You can't argue with the data. Well, you can, and we're gonna.
How I'm
we're gonna
push it, recommend this to patients. I'll gladly sell this to patients if it's worth it. But these guys are already strapped for money. They don't want to spend $250 on something that
and we have to stand behind it if we're if we're going to talk about it, we got to really know about it.
I want to know. I want to test it out.
Jeff Frazier, the lawyer over there standing up with the handsome shirt on, knows that they better show up with an uncertainty budget associated with their test results. That's all I got to say. Just kidding. That's a lawyer thing. Sorry. Jeff, what do you think about this? Sounds like a great business. They're like, hey, send us some DNA. We'll sell it to the Russians and the Chinese.
Right.
And then we'll send you a flowery hippie thing that says, this is the kind of marijuana cannabis you want to smoke, and it should, it's funny. It's a good, it's a great idea. We'll see how it is. I'm going to say, but it's an evolutionary technological step of clearly a need of something.
I was going to say, it would be game changing if if they can explain and it proves to be what they are claiming it to be, it can change the game for a lot of people that are spending. I mean, $250 would be one first trip to the dispensary for a lot of people.
For sure. I'm just wondering, like, how they can. So they're identifying and recommending certain terpenes or certain ratios of cannabis. I mean, we may not even be at a point where we're identifying the right chemicals that may interact with. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they could, Are
we even testing for that kind of stuff? Do we even know it's there? We know that there's Ohio, over 100 and some odd cannabinoids, but what about?
I know in Ohio they test for a very large number of those. It's a very wide profile.
Sure.
But
do you have access to maybe an example? Not right now, but like for maybe when just if we can just so we can see it, what kinds of terpenes and stuff they're testing on.
I don't, but
which, by the way, Kelsey, who is working in Danielle's office, she's a pharmacist.
Right. Yeah.
She's developing a training program for physicians in regards to cannabis.
Oh, good.
So that there's some things going on in addition to the advisor, the cannabis advisor services that Danielle's doing, and potentially depending upon this Canna GX.
The problem is
we're going to really narrow it down.
The problem is that even if this is taking place, like let's say you get an honestly reported, widely profiled cannabis flower of some kind. There's, and the doctor literally has to do his or her own research and correlations on it, saying that, okay, I've got, these patients that have, they could have chronic pain. These ones could have Crohn's. Yes, this one could have
cancer.
Whatever.
Nausea.
And you're right, nausea, whatever there. And they may be able to begin to pick and choose some that, correlate, whatever. You know what I mean? Some of them, I think, would generally be more broad. Chronic pain is a broader. But you know what I'm saying? I think I do think a lot of it. I mean, I'm not a scientist. And these other variables do lead back to that, I think. But nevertheless, there's not enough of. You need these control samples. You know what I mean? In all science, you got to have control samples, and the control samples can only really be. You got to have blind studies to get. There's a lot of research on PubMed, more so than most people want to acknowledge and recognize. And that's always been the argument. They said there's not a lot of research that's out there. There is. There's a lot. There's more so than there is on Adderall for ADDH. There's more cannabis peer-reviewed studies that have been.
But a lot of those things are tied up in some sort of government funding. So the advertisement, there's no stats being advertised on that research that's been done. So to the general public, there's not enough research unless you dig for it.
But doctors say that too.
If they don't go to find it, yes. But if they don't go to find it, it's just not on their mind because their pocketbooks are lined. They've got their job. They're not going to research that unless they are.
And it's a big shift. It's being taught in medical schools now, as far as I know U of M just started teaching some kind of chemistry.
Chemistry program, yes. School right now, and they didn't talk about it at all.
There's
another friend of mine graduated from nursing school a couple years ago. They didn't talk about it at all.
There are starting to be cannabis programs, like for instance, Central Michigan University has one, and
that's a medical school.
No, it's not a doctor, but it's for medical marijuana.
Unfortunately, the practice of medicine is about treating people, not curing people.
That's right.
And the way that you treat people is that you have very, very specific medications that are controlled, and they got to come to the doctor to get them, and you put them on this treatment to make to
create a customer.
Whatever, I know, but it's going to be difficult. I don't think there'll ever be a time where pharmacies will, true pharmacies, will sell. Or
there was once a time when they did.
Yes, like in the late 1800s.
There is now.
But they didn't sell flour.
They do. They don't sell flour.
They sold syrup.
Yeah, they sold the concentrate.
No, I know, but I was saying it's like the flour.
Epidiolex absolutely falls into the category of marijuana.
Have just a regular pharmacy where you can walk in and they just have it there.
No, but I know that. But I'm saying, and it may get there. I don't know if it'll be a far. I mean, I think the vision of our recreational, I've always said, it's more like every place you would see a case of beer in a cooler. Think of how it got there, and there was so much of it, and it was everywhere, and you can get it anywhere, and no one's growing in their basement anymore because it's everywhere and it's a reasonable price. And if you want some specialty, you go to the
and if you want to brew it, in your basement, you can. It's just not worth it.
Right. So I mean, but for the medical, I know there's this concern, and this has always been the fight of, like, if the government really thinks of it as being medical, which it is because they got a patent on it, they know that it's got, therapeutic, they know it forever. But even if that's the case, and they've tried to really monopolize this. They gave out the Epidiolex, as you know, the Marinol, and
I could go on forever.
Yeah.
Was that CBD?
But what I'm saying is, if and when they start,
Where's my?
if it remains in the pharmacies, it's going to be in this really tightly controlled. I mean, I know just.
It is in Ohio.
But I know that. But I'm saying, I don't see a scenario where there's no medicines that are manufactured in the controlled system that are flour. You know what I mean? It's just, you're not going to see, like, they may make it into a concentrate or a liquid or an extraction, but I don't see a controlled pharmaceutical doctor-endorsed system selling flour to be smoked. I just.
Well, I think, but that might fall back to the validity of the testing and the fact that they don't know for sure in a flour versus if they turn it into a concentrate and they put it into some type of controlled dose. It's easier for them. It's more palatable for that industry to take it that way.
Of course,
if they have a measurable thing instead of just take a pinch of this much flour. Like, flour's not very easy to dose.
Right.
By any means.
Right, and yes, and I'm just saying, like, I that's been one of the things that is in this play between it being fully embraced medically and the need for it to have a recreational place. Do you see what I'm saying?
But I think that kind of falls back into setting the goal and the intention. It can go either way. You can easily sit down as a medical patient and overdo it, and it all of a sudden becomes a recreational thing.
For sure, although. Very rarely do people over smoke, right? I mean, that's. I mean,
I just mean as far as, like, what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah. If you're not trying to get to that level, then.
Let me tell you about a dessert tea.
But no, what I was saying is.
But there is no lethal over smoking.
No, I know, and usually people, they smoke until they've had enough and they stop, right? That's but the dosing. For food is a little bit, it can be different. But anyways, what I was getting at is this. If the discussion, I think there's, even though, for the sake of patients, is what I'm saying, for the sake of patients and those that may get their only relief from smoking, I think it's important that, the medical industry and if the federal government made it Schedule 2 or Schedule 3, I don't know that they're going to be able to find the flour. It's not going to be around. It's not going to be offered for medical. You know what I'm saying? I just think that the medical controlled industry, prove me wrong, if there's like a place that you can think of where they're just selling flour to patients, or some kind of plant that you hear. Here's a bag of plant. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a thing. Like, it's not even, it's just so it's so outside of the concept. Jeff, what am I trying to say? Like, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's good that we have a recreational because that at least keeps the flour around for patients that might need it. If we go into a direction of medical controlled by the federal government, they're going to eliminate flour being sold for smoking. Jeff, that's what I'm trying to say. You agree with that?
Yes, I do. That's why Biden is so dangerous. He comes out with this as marijuana is Schedule 3. Whole thing goes to sorry.
Or they have to unschedule it. That's what I'm saying. I without undermining what I think is a very, very significant, medical plant for a lot of different reasons. And I realize there's even a need for all these services, bedside manner almost, teaching and educating and having someone hands-on that can give real-life experiences and actually be there and actually help you if you could. But I have the controlled system that marijuana finds itself in as a Schedule I is ridiculous, of course. But if it stays in that pharmaceutical kind of medical professional world, even though there needs to be a ton of research, I think the best thing to do is if they unschedule it, then they can research it all day long, right? And doctors can still recommend it. Go up to the dispensary and buy some, you know what I mean? Or maybe some other companies will get involved with it and it won't be a big deal and they'll be able to sell a product that's, medical and it's not scheduled and you buy it and it's some, method of ingestion that, is better than all the other ones or something. And, but what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we debate about the scheduling of it. I'm just curious. I know you're in the, you're tied to the doctor in this pharmaceutical. Is it? Do you see any backlash here? Do you think there's concerns in Ohio of, pharmaceutical takeover if it stays as it is?
I think amongst patients there is. I don't know that doctors have given that much weight to it yet. Honestly, I hope not. I hope it doesn't go that way. It would be a tragedy. I think that would take a lot of the people part of the culture out. I think trying to turn it into what the pharmaceutical companies have turned the medical industry into, I would hate to see it go that way, but I have heard that up for years from medical patients here. It's just so strict. They just have a lot of rules and a lot of rules that make absolutely no sense. So
it's the most controlled of all controlled substances.
It blows my, and it's the safest one around. It blows my mind.
It's unreal.
Hear, hear.
Unreal.
All right, on that note, we have to take a break.
Just in time. I got back just in time. Let's
when
take
we
a
come
break.
back, we're going to discuss how the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has now become a Schedule I drug.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. You're listening to Planet Green Trees.
Jeff Frazier.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
And now back to more Planet Green Trees.
See, maybe they do. Maybe.
All right, we're back.
We don't really know.
We're back.
Well, we have some interesting topics off topic.
Woo, yes, we sure did, and I'm sure that the audience is glad they didn't hear it.
Yeah, that was a really disturbing conversation.
It was intense. It was similar to watching the Human Centipede 1 through 3. all in like a 5-minute convo.
It was very entertaining.
Yeah, we cram a lot into our brains.
And we lost Jeff.
Yeah.
And we also lost Shyler.
Where's Shyler?
Here, I want to get Shyler, get back down here. I want to get back. We got about 20 minutes
there we go. Oh, he's here. Okay, he's looking all disheveled now because he's listening to our convo.
All right, here.
Oh, look, Shyler got a new laptop.
You did?
Did you? What do you got there?
Same one.
All right.
Let's see it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Show it
We left off with Shyler with two things that struck me as important, if I may. I wrote them down. One was the we've heard before we live in a police state, but we live in what we're going to call a police economy. A police economy.
A police state economy.
I remember pulling out of, I think it was White Cloud, Michigan, where there was...
It's a lovely town.
I've been there.
Lovely
There's
town.
one restaurant was shut down, and now there's nobody employed by anybody within the township other than the police force.
Right.
Oh, wow.
They're doing all the... All right. So, but here's my question.
That's like a bad movie.
Police economy. Shyler, the right
What can
to...
I say I actually believe?
Let me ask my question. The right to travel, a federalist might say, is not being prohibited. You want to get on your horse.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to walk your walk.
If you want to.
But once you get into a vehicle,
get on your bike.
It's no longer your right to travel. It's your safety, and you're on our federal roads. We'll let you walk if you got gym shoes on, no hard soles, and you got to have a shirt on. But if you
and a mask.
You can walk for real.
Then give me a reason for them to stop you, unless it says no walking.
All right.
But to travel, to be interpreted today, did not anticipate vehicles and maybe a horse-drawn carriage. I think a better argument is if you got a... What was the method of travel back then? Jeff, what do you say? Right, a federalist would say, don't take the right to travel and give me this modern-day interpretation. I have to consider vehicles and Fords and cars and engines and stuff, because that's a promulgation of, legislative, creative government entities and laws and safety, which they're authorized to do. So it says the state statutes and whatnot. But as far as travel, walk your to your heart's content.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting a horse.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll just say there's an interesting case in Michigan. It was back during the Prohibition days where the national, the state guard, the state military, threw a tree trunk across the road and was setting up roadblock. And among other things, finding it an unreasonable search, they cited the Michigan Constitution that has this provision that says that the military power shall be subservient to the civil power in the state, and that's what I think. I don't think they have. I mean, can they keep you from leaving the state? Could the state of Michigan
I don't know.
From leaving?
I mean, it seems like it's going to be there. That's what I fear, is that if I don't decide to get a vaccine, what am I stuck?
Well, he's asking more or less. He's asking generally, but like if you don't have a driver's license and you're driving on a Michigan road and they pull you over, you say, "Well, I'm traveling and I'm leaving the state, so let me go," is what Jeff's asking.
Okay, I'm still on the vaccine.
I wonder if the question of, because some of these roads are
I can't believe we're talking about
state roads or federal roads. That
don't worry, I got a question for you, Shyler. It's coming up.
Make your point, Shyler. What is your I want to hear you defend the right to travel, and why.
Okay, but it's not fleshed out. I don't think the jurisprudence is modern, but when you listen to the sovereign citizens in court address this point, and I can't believe I'm saying this. You're got me saying this stuff on YouTube, sir.
See? It's a permanent record, Shyler, but no pressure.
But what they argue is that they're just traveling through the state that they've been pulled over in, and because their right to travel is among the states that they don't need a license if they're traveling through the state.
Yeah, you know how that usually ends, Shyler?
They go to jail.
Yeah, and they get tased.
I understand that. But the thing is, the right to travel has nothing to do about necessarily like automobiles and whatnot, not as we constitutionally understand it.
There's no constitutional understanding of what an automobile is there? It's not in the Constitution.
Well, the driver's license is a privilege.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's ridiculous.
That's not in the Constitution.
It means this. It means it's a government entitlement.
Oh.
It means that not everybody gets one.
Right.
But if you want to get it, you got to do certain things. And when you get it, it may be conditioned on certain things as well. That you maintain a certain something or other to keep that entitlement. Or if you see a police officer in the rear view mirror pulling you over, you got to pull over. And he wants to make sure. And in order to drive that vehicle, knowing they're going to be subject to being pulled over, you got to renew your license every year. Pay the state. You got to give them a registration.
You got to pay to play.
Pay the state.
Yeah.
You know,
Write
and
the
make
check.
sure that your vehicle doesn't have any defective equipment on it.
Even a light.
Catch-all phrase, even if
8
and
working, 1 not.
Right. So
general ordinance against defective equipment.
My complaints are just against the regulation surrounding the licensing of people driving. Like, I have just issues that we've already talked about, but doesn't
the legislature have the authority to create agencies and give the agencies the authority to regulate these various safety things?
Right, but they're in my opinion, the agencies are basically unaccountable. And that's the modern problem in modern governance, is you've got legislators who aren't actually making laws. They're just playing politics, making news, being clowns, while the actual lawmaking is done by regulatory fiat.
Yes, non-elected people that have been given the authority to create administrative rules that end up being the governance. Do you know who the author of draft 6, 7, 8, 9 of the mixing of the MMA, MMFLA, and MRTMA? Just take one guess who the
agency.
It was, the executive director of the agency. His name can remain.
I doubt that.
Brisboe?
I don't have enough individualized knowledge to speculate on it, but do you think that Mr. Brisboe sat down with his own pen and put his own pen on paper, or do you think that
swipe of a pen,
some lobbyist is sending that up?
Well, at the end of the day,
what are you trying to insinuate, Shyler?
Yeah,
what I'm suggesting we don't.
There's a good argument. Listen, there's a good argument
that completely broken.
There's a good argument that a perspective from a true objective perspective, if one could be had by one individual, maybe the person to make some recommendations. That may sound like a king, but and he certainly. Anyways, but here's the thing: what is the? We drifted off there a little bit in the. We're seeing it, in the cannabis industry. We're seeing the overwhelming power of these agencies that run, the occupational licensing and cannabis licensing.
You should see the size of the fines.
The fines are pretty.
Holy moly!
What we're talking about, though, is the legitimacy of the authority to make rules, and if there's no, consensus by procedure, or there's no democratic support. What legitimacy is there for these rules? And, that's...
Right. For example, the state Court of Appeals makes a published opinion that says you cannot punish a medical marijuana patient while they're on probation because it is a penalty, and the law prohibits that pursuant to the...
It clearly says you can't do that.
And then you ask yourself, why would an agency ever make a decision in a driving case to return someone's driver's license or not, that because they're a medical marijuana patient, they can ever...
Well, that's complete BS. I don't know how...
But that's what you're talking about, right? That's an agency abusing its power.
I'm not talking about DLAD, and I frankly don't know how DLAD got away with what they've done for the last 10 years.
What do you mean? What do you mean the last 10 years? Let's call it 20 years. Let's call it literally teaching religion, imposing religion on... imposing religion. There's no First
How
Amendment.
How does that feel, Shyler?
The 12 Steps program, that's a whole different discussion. What I'm saying, though, is everyone that I have, email contact with in Michigan marijuana community has given a complete pass, it seems, to the way that our regulators have just willy-nilly joined a federal consortium of marijuana regulators, and it just completely absolves any local, state, rulemaking. It's like, what on earth is this? Like, these regulators got to get together out of state and talk about how they're going to impose the rules in their individual states. That's the rulemaking process these days.
Yes.
I mean, that's
it's bad.
It's really bad. But I mean,
you know what they say,
and we're all going to live through it, and it's going to be like another 6-7 year process. This nonsense.
Listen, you're just mad that you weren't invited to the rules-making committee party in Vegas because those things rock.
That's right.
That's a hot ticket. They sit around talking about how they're going to control the cannabis industry.
You're telling me that these
totally fun.
These state of Michigan regulators are actually traveling to Las Vegas during a pandemic?
Can you imagine hanging out with all those Jaspers?
I was making a joke.
That would be so much fun.
Because it's marijuana.
They would be so much fun. They would be like watching paint dry. Oh.
Can I ask Shyler a question real quick?
Yes, please. That's Shyler all day long.
Now, what do we do about this conundrum we're in with the courts right now, where we have a ruling, People versus Tui, that Michael just talked about?
Jeff, you're in backup for this. Get ready.
And the lower courts are just refusing to abide by the higher court's ruling. What to do about that, Shyler?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because I am out of my mind right now with this.
You better think about this real carefully before you answer, because it's an important question. Okay?
How many calls are you actually getting on this? I'm just curious.
A ton.
A ton. 10 a week.
A ton. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Are they in like all different courts?
We're asking you.
Shyler, you're asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, we are asking you the question.
Well, I'll answer his questions because it's relevant.
I think the Tui case is clear, and I think it is expansive in scope, and I think it's really hard to wiggle out. But I'm sure that there is some individualized cases where a judge might find some sort of pretense to maintain.
Like what?
Not based on a legal reason, by judicial activism. But go ahead.
Just because their opinion, you mean? I don't know.
I mean,
they're going to find a hole just like a cop
let him answer
would
the
find
question.
a problem.
What does one do? Shyler, got that answer?
Okay.
Yes or no? Because let Jeff answer. He's got an answer for us.
So what if that person attained the authorization by fraud? What if the person attained the authorization through the doctor not doing his job?
Is that how we're running a bench now in a court of law?
That's not a thing.
We're going with the what ifs now. What if this? What if that? I mean, is that what we're doing in judicial?
Fact finding, sure. If you were to have some sort of colloquy with your probationer, who's 18 years old and doesn't appear to have any sort of issues. A judge who might not recognize like some of the, mental things that are occurring in a person's brain that cannabis might assist with. This is a pretty healthy looking guy. Why?
Shyler. Some physician
addressing this question.
That is outrageous.
That is the people in the state.
You could get canceled. You could get canceled for saying those things, Shyler. I'd be careful.
I've been long canceled, I think.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Like cancel culture. That was like so offensive what you just said. They didn't look sick. You know what I mean? They look healthy.
Sounds like Rick Jones.
Let me say that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. Like, that's appalling. That's like the worst thing you can say. Like, it's not. And by the way, it goes like this. Look, Judge, I don't care what you say. He's got a card. That means some physician put his, in the news.
Did he go to doctor, sign him up?
What does that matter?
Shyler.
He's a licensed doctor, and this is the law.
Wow. What happened to, first of all, if we're going to go by these agencies have too much power, and what they're doing and making the rules is so powerful that they become the legislatures, then let's look at what those agency rules say. Specifically, not just the act, but they will validate the application for the patient. They sign off on it at some point. They confirm the physician is licensed in the state of Michigan, that they've checked the right boxes, and they send out a card. The administrative rules tell us that. So for some judicial actor, some jurist to suggest that there is something to look into at that point? The answer is, if they knew and understood that this is governed by that administrative agency, and it's not for them to stick their nose into it, and the card speaks for itself, and the law says that it's not probable cause of a crime, and not even something to look at, look beyond. That's the whole point of that opinion. That is, I mean, Shyler, what kind of judicial activism are you spouting here? You're like looking for some end arounds? That's the Federalist in you coming out. That there's no judicial activism. It must be read as it's read, except when we can show some places where we can think we can undo things. And there's nothing even.
I'm a big fan of the presumption of medical use. I've been arguing that since the very beginning, you might remember. But I'm suggesting if it's offered to the judge that the kid went to doctor sign him up, and he has a card so he can use for.
That doesn't matter.
It shouldn't matter.
That is not a legal argument. That is some nonsense. Because that guy or girl has a medical license, and even if there's a bad judgment there, it's not for the courts to get involved. That's not for them. That is an issue with the licensing board. And that's how those things are functioning. And maybe if he's over his limit, or there's a presumption that's found for that somehow rebuts the medical use, and they got to put forth a Section 8 defense, they may have a problem with prong 1. After all, in person in courts means from the jail to the court. So in person for prong 1 must mean.
Look, you know I agree with you, but Steve's question was, what are we to do about it? And I think that he already knows that the answer is, superintending control. Yeah. If it's a repeat offense, you shouldn't have to lawyer. We all know this, but, I'm telling you that a judge is going to basically, who thinks that, medical cannabis is a crock, is going to find the reasons the way that I just said that he'll try to go about it.
And do these judges, are they asking for superintending control right now?
No.
No, we're not at that point, I don't think.
Jeff, what do you say? And then I want to come back to Shyler. Go ahead, Jeff, please.
No, I think that's right. I think the answer is superintending control, which I understand to be when you basically mandamus, do a writ of mandamus effectively to a lower court judge from a higher up court. That I don't know if you could get the Supremes to mandamus, but I think that's right. That a writ of mandamus to file to force the judge to follow the clear black and white law.
We want the judge to follow the law, Shyler. We want the judge to follow the law.
Yeah, no, I got it, man.
There's we need to go up.
What?
Listen, go ahead, Jeff. Keep going, Jeff.
Oh, that was it. No, go up. Find his boss, and then that guy's boss, and that guy's boss. Appeal. Take the battle to the appellate courts. We really need to get pretty adept at doing that, don't we?
I'll tell you something. Even though Michigan is deemed a one court of justice, in other words, the jurisdiction of any judge anywhere is the jurisdiction in anywhere across the state, because it's one entire court. The problem is that they do not fund themselves through one funding source, and many of the courts are reliant upon their own local funding, which creates all this disparity and all this breakdown of lack of resources and different training mechanisms that'll come up to try to get what's hot and make their money from it. And I don't say all this in the sense that, I'm practicing for 28 years, maybe more, and I've seen a lot of what can only be described as a broken system in just very, very few ways to get out of it once you're sucked in.
That's tough.
And not a lot of resources for people once they get sucked into it. But recently, and there's seemingly a trend of reformist politicians that want to take leadership positions on the theory of less of that, and break down some of these institutions and try to replace them with more sensible methods of doing the policing work. And this is not just me saying this. We know that there's a tremendous amount of expungement bills that came out, different other amendments that go along with it. The reform goes as far as to, like, less, all the reform beyond the expungement bills, like the giving tickets instead of arresting for the night for non-serious misdemeanors, some of the limitations to the types of probations that a judge can give for sentences on certain kind of crimes. They're trying to eliminate.
There's progress made. There's progress being made. These are good things.
Well, I'm saying that this is. They had two terrible reports that called out the state of Michigan, the trial court funding and then the overcrowding jail problem, and out of that came the system's broken, and they told the legislature about it. They fixed these expungement bills. They amended the moral character so people could get jobs, occupational licenses, and then these last pieces here, and with the idea of trying to minimize the power that the court has in these people's lives that would actually create criminals because you violate your probation, or just be brutal, but it's still puts a huge void of the business and the activity and the reliance on these citizens for funding. And my main point of saying this is that while this may be the law, this may be the intention. Certain states, the state legalized marijuana. There's some counties and cities that pretending like it never happened. There may be a limitation to, whether you can arrest for non-serious misdemeanor, which is you can't do it. And there's some police officers that are still going to do it, and they're going to do it until someone tells them no. And
they have a catch-all in the law. Did any of you guys see that? No. I mean, it's like one of the last reasons that they're allowed to arrest you, and it basically says for any reason that the officer can articulate. It's absolutely ridiculous.
We got to quit making it so easy on them and quit babying them. When they screw up, they need to be told they screwed up. When they come to you with a shit warrant request, they need to be told no.
Let me tell you something. It goes something like this, okay? If you think back a little while ago, we were going into a statewide and national pandemic. They shut everything down. People were protesting. People were getting killed. There was all kinds of crazy, governmental things that were going on. The courts were unstable. And we realized that many of the things that drove our economy were unessential. We realized that there was medicine that we could not get into our country for our citizens because of travel and transport restrictions from country to country, meaning we have outsourced all of our jobs for cheap, and we didn't have a supply for our own citizens, okay? And there's lesson after lesson after lesson, one of which is the 100% volume that fills up the courts at the district and the circuit court, and all of the tight bond conditions, and come to court every week and get into this court. We got to see you, and go down there and jump through this hoop. You know what they said to him? We'll call you later. Come back when it's all over. Not that important anymore. And what I'm saying to you is, as significant as these so-called reformist things took place, and let me say this final thing. There was actually a conversation for a second or two on the national stage amongst legislatures about ending qualified immunity. Or it was framed defunding the police. No one's suggesting defunding the police. We're talking about the basic tenets and principles of.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure some of the people really do mean to defund the police.
I'm saying that is not what I'm saying. Some people may say defund the police, and what they really mean is end qualified immunity. It may be either one of those things. Because I would say this last example, and the new public debate about this young police officer that accidentally, and really truly probably did accidentally.
It wasn't a young police officer.
Oh, you're right.
26-year veteran.
26-year veteran, and she was on a training.
And she was a trainer.
She was training.
Field training.
And she
officer.
missed.
She had. There were multiple issues with that whole entire incident. She should have never.
Left is the taser. The strong side is the gun, Steve. Right? That's what we put you right. Okay.
And then you can see in that video. And she's aiming
cry.
You can I can clearly see those were Glock sights. I know those sights.
Yeah.
And
but here you go.
And I mean, she went into the full she thought she was carrying her taser.
I can't imagine. What is she on? We need a 12-panel, 16-panel, 25.
Vision. You get in those incidents like that, and shit is just going like mad. You don't.
So you're not thinking about it.
She must have thought she had her taser in her hand. Because she went through all the actions as if that were a taser.
Do you really think it was honest mistake?
Yes, I do. Because that is what the training for the taser. She went through all those motions like she had a taser in her hand. So I think she thought she had her taser. I really do.
So
I'm not trying to make up excuses.
No.
I'm just saying that's the reality of that situation.
Yeah, and what do you do in that? What do you do? What do you do there?
Her gun out.
Someone lost their life.
And then it went into a use of force. They were trying to corral the guy and get him handcuffed and secured.
Right.
And all of a sudden, she went into less lethal mode.
Taser.
And then she thought she had her taser in her hand. I don't know.
I'm going to shoot you with the taser.
It was a psychological
error. I think I shot him.
It was bad. I mean, she got sucked into that moment with that tunnel vision and.
Shit! I wish I could sometimes say "oops" like that.
Yeah, that's. Shit! I shot him.
Jeez, Pete's.
All right, so this is what I would suggest.
Oops.
If there was there was no longer qualified immunity, this is the potential scenario that would happen. She may never have been hired. Not for any other reason, but she may not have met the criteria that would be required of a police officer hiring, because she may have been deemed someone that would make that kind of mistake. She may not meet the criteria, because now that they're on the hook for for being sued for that accident, that would probably not a lawsuit, that whatever, that it's going to be on the police to hire the right people, because it's the hiring of the bad people that give the police the bad name. Not every police officer is out there shooting people.
But you know what?
She may not even be the exception. But I'm saying there's no reason in the world that should happen accidentally, okay? We should not be living in a world where that kind of accident would ever happen, and we wouldn't immediately think to lock the person up, even if it was an accident. And I get that. You see what I'm saying? It means that what was taking place there, of having a weapon in someone's hand, that could be a result. That might be the problem, right? Like, they should only maybe have a taser.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As opposed to if they've got a gun, I realize they got a gun, but they're over stockpiled. They got too many weapons. So when they go to do the lesser, when they
got so much.
Which should I use?
Of course. But
should I pepper? Should I taser? Should I?
Right. So, and I realize they don't want to lose the upper hand, but only if you're over firepowered, and only if, under those circumstances, first of all, they're terrible circumstances. I'm not trying to undermine that. I could say that there's probably some things that you could pick out here, just speculating. 27 years on the force training. When was the last time she got trained? When was the last time she had a psychological evaluation? When was the last time she was pulled out and given a break to go do it and clear, so she comes back and she's fresh? No professional burnout. I bet all of those things are part of it, as all police officers are suffering through every single day.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right? With their lives falling apart at home.
Yes.
And a divorce and all that. It's all that's just a terrible.
Drug abuse, alcoholism.
And professional
burnout. That guy pulled over.
I heard expired.
He was pulled over. He had expired tags.
So listen,
there you go.
So I'm saying
you get expired. That's why I tell my son.
I'm saying to you that this, whatever excuse is going to be made for the accident, is probably, a lot of people can understand it if they're put in that situation. I'm saying that's the problem. There should be only people, or a training program that they're accountable for, so that that person, there wouldn't be an excuse.
But you know
that
what
there would be such calm, that they would be like zen about
right,
it.
exactly.
They're
They've
not,
done it
they're
a
not
million
like,
times.
They're not like, jacked up crazy. They're like the opposite of it.
Telling you, let me tell you something. I came into police work with a bachelor's degree, 4 years military, star candidate. And that's what a lot of the departments were hiring in at the time. But who's training you? The old dudes from the 70s and 80s and hyping you up. Getting you what, are you just going to walk away from that stop? You can find something in that car. Go up there, go make contact again. Figure out a way to get in that car. That's the shit you're getting as a new trained officer. So no matter how much education, no matter how much military and experience you bring to the table, you're going to get influenced by these older officers who are your trainers.
Yeah, that's the tough.
Who are we blaming for this, Jeff? Alec or something like that? Is it the prison system? There's a design here. There became a point in time where they decided the citizens are the enemy, and the silent majority.
What happened, Jeff?
The silent majority needs to be protected. I remember who said that.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a good question. Like, what did he get pulled over for? Because if what he got pulled over for is something he could have received a citation for by mail because some camera system picked it up, then why are we having these police encounters in the first place?
From my understanding, it was tags.
Well, there's nothing that says that they can't see your tags. They've got all kind of technology that they do precisely that anyway.
And
the
tags
point I'm
are
making
just
is that the cops are
Expired
rapidly,
tags.
Here's the irony. You can't.
Kid didn't pay his taxes, so he died.
No,
not tax.
Shyler's metaphoring the tags. Government. Here's the best part.
Certainly
Even if he wanted to go into and pay it, he couldn't because it was shut down.
Huh.
So guess what? He got tasered, aka killed.
They've been doing that all over this state. When you start seeing people with you couldn't get into Secretary of State and they'd have a thing where their plate is. I have an appointment with the Secretary of State on such and such a date. You want to know why? Because they've probably been pulled over 6, 7, 8 times for not having a plate on their vehicle or whatever, or having an expired tab. Because they're still pulling them over, because they're still wanting to get in cars, and they're still wanting to play this little fucking war on drugs game. And you know what? They're going to get what they get when they're playing those games. I'm sorry. It's a volatile time
Jim,
right
what do you
now.
say? Jim, give us your thoughts. You haven't been talking.
Yeah, you've been quiet tonight.
I mean, my thoughts are really simple on this topic, and I always sound like a broken record, but the only way to fix this is you have to legalize all drugs, and people aren't ready to accept that conversation yet. Until this country starts treating drug addiction like a public health crisis, which it is, and not a public safety crisis, this shit will continue. We will continue to not trust our police, and people will continue to die.
Yeah, that's it. The citizens and the police, they're going to have bad encounters, fatal encounters.
And
it's going to continue because they seem like they're ramping it up right now. As if a stand of force. Like, we don't care that half the country's rioting right now because of us. We're going to come down harder on you. And that's what's going on. It needs to stop.
It definitely does. And you take the drugs out of the mix, you take a bunch of the searches out of the mix, you take a bunch of the...
I think is actually happening is when the police unions are defunded, when the pensions of the police officers aren't worth what they were in the past, that's when the change will happen. The pension system got really bad there for a little bit, and then we got those massive, government money printing and sending money everywhere that basically refilled the coffers of all these programs. So I just think that the change has to happen with the money, or else you're just going to get the same sort of policies. So that's my opinion. I don't think any of this, and while it's horrible, I just don't see the individual events actually leading to much actual systematic change.
I disagree. I don't think you can find a situation where the police have not been paid. Like no matter what, they get paid, and they're going to get paid all the time. They may lay some off. They may get a millage to get more, but they're the first on the docket for payments. What you're saying is that the governance of the city requires them to have police because that's become a method of raising revenue to pay for the city governance. They have no other methods of gathering tax dollars.
That's the disconnect between you and I. You think that they're actually making money, and I'm telling you that it's a works program. It's a way for the federal government to control what goes on in states using monetary policy and financial stimulus to actually determine how the economy operates. It has nothing to do with them collecting $135 from you.
There's two things we're talking about. One is that the federal government will force states to take implement certain laws. Watch 0.08 alcohol level go to 0.05. Federal government's been trying to do that. That's number one. I'm saying, Shyler, that when you look out across the state, there's a lot of cities that are financially vulnerable. They have no revenue coming in that they get, and cities are limited to the types of revenue they could ever bring in. It's almost like their fixed cost of, real estate, commercial and residential, and that's it. When they built the stores in Royal Oak, Michigan, that, liquor, beers and bars, and it became a place for people to go, the city of Royal Oak doesn't get that money from those sales of food and liquor. They may get some parking fees, but they're getting their money of the people that are leaving that store, that restaurant, having 2 martinis and some white fish from, I'm thinking of what is it, Tom's Oyster Bar or whatever, and they're going to get pulled over, and they're going to get them into the jail, and they're going to take the car and get money for that. And this is what I'm saying. And that's the wild Royal Oak.
It doesn't go far enough. And as I'm saying,
it doesn't go far enough.
Shyler. It's not about rent extractions. It's about controlling the fiscal flows, because it puts money in the pockets of the people that are supportive of, I don't want to say regime, but that are supportive of the way that things ought to be done. The thing is, the cops get to go buy what they want to buy, and the economy resembles what the police program wants the economy to resemble. If the economy were to resemble what normal people were actually spending money on,
I'll tell you what's going to...
it would look a lot different. But the way that we manage money from top down, that's why it's shaped the way it is.
Well, that's... Let me lay a little truth on you. If the police continue to keep killing people, then if they, without regard for human life, there will be a breaking point, I think, and it may not be pretty. And this may not be the government that's going to change it for us right now. But I'm saying if this continues, I just don't think that humanity can continue to as an advanced culture, to watch that stuff go on and not have a tremendous evolutionary step in the direction of needing to stop that from happening. Like that's the problem. It turns into a political issue. There's clearly a problem there, and it needs to be resolved. And we'll call it a police economy. That's the problem. The problem is it's too big to fail, and it is the biggest mismanagement of government that ever existed, that we are here, and that the police are driving our economy and get away with the shit that they can. Our founding fathers, Federalist man, or shall I say, what would I describe you as?
Well, you just have to have an
listen, they'd be rolling over in their graves.
MXN.
Kicking in doors and taking the plants that you harvested out of your backyard and not hurting anyone. Shyler, come on. This is the most...
They'll follow you into the... You want a government official to follow you in the bathroom and watch you while you take a piss for your drug test for the court? What do you think the founding fathers would say about that one?
Noah, the chapter from Noah wouldn't even allow that from the Bible.
Shyler.
Danielle.
Why are these my? Why am I supposed to be defending these things?
Why not?
Listen, I'm just happy that I came at you with some like Federalist and Bible stuff. I thought that's the strongest argument that's ever been made between us. Seriously, I just like
Danielle.
I was like into the Noah. You know, come on, that's good. I needed like a section though. Jeff, give me a section.
Tell us about the
Line,
story
Jeff,
of
section.
Noah and Ham, Jeff.
Noah and Ham, come on.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
He's putting him on the spot. Danielle, I know you have to jump off of here. Thank you so much for.
She may know it. She may know it.
Oh,
No, I don't. No.
Okay. She just texted.
Thank you very much.
But we are going to see you again once we have the Canna GX folks on, so we can have a discussion about that and kind of dissect some information.
Come up and join us sometime. Toledo's not that far.
Yeah, she came to Hash Bash, but we just missed her.
Oh, did we?
We just crossed paths, but yeah, I absolutely would love to come up. I told Amanda I'm in the market for a new lease right now, so as soon as I get a new car, I'll make a plan.
She's making moves, so you know those things take time.
I'd love to have you come up for sure.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, thank you so much.
Boom.
All right, thanks for coming on.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Bye,
Shyler.
y'all.
Thanks, Jeff. See you.
Shut it down.
Well, Jeff's gonna send some.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Before you plead, call me, Attorney Michael Komorn.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture has returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.